at this time, it gives me great honor to introduce to you our Executive Director of the Sicangu Treaty Council. And Phil also just shared with me that he found out that he did a DNA test and he found out that he and I are relatives. So we're really excited to learn that of our relations. And Maina Mona shared that he's also, once again, from the Rosebud Dakota Oyate. He was born and raised on the Rosebud Indian Reservation, South Central South Dakota. Mr. Tuigo has served in the U.S. Army from 1982 to 1986 and has been working for the tribe down at the Sicangu Dakota Oyate in various capacities. He has been working on preserving the inherent rights and treaty rights of the Sicangu Dakota Oyate. Mr. Tuigo believes in preserving his Lakota language as he recognizes the language as a source of inherent sovereignty and a connection to his ancestors. Mr. Tuigo also wants to restore the traditional practices that honor and respect Unchimaka, Grandmother Earth, and has led the effort to establish a climate center on the Rosebud Reservation. He has worked in the service of his people and the land to bring greater attention to the 1851 and 1868 Fort Laramie treaties, urging the U.S. federal government to honor the treaties it signed with our ancestors. Let's give a warm welcome to Dekshi here, Phil Tuigo.
My relatives, I shake your hands with a good heart. And I want to take this opportunity to thank each and every one of you for coming here. We want to welcome you to the sacred Sápa, the Black Hills, home of the Ocheti Shakoi Oyate. We are part of the Lakota, Dakota, and Nakota people. And I wanted to let you know that some of you have never heard what a treaty council is, but these are our elders. And where the treaty council came from was originally the traditional Lakota government, and that is the chief councils. And prior to the Fort Laramie treaties, the chiefs had their own council. So after the treaties were signed, then the treaty councils formed themselves to make sure that the United States government has honored the treaties, which they never have. So I also want to recognize some of our treaty councils are direct descendants of Chief Spotted Tail. We have also descendants of Chief Red Cloud and Chief Two Strike and Chief Iron Shell amongst us. These are very descendants of the chiefs. That's where the treaty councils come from. The ancestors are still in our DNA. We are still here. And I want to talk a little bit about how this came to be. About 2 years ago, I met Amy Lewis at a conference here in Rapid City. And her and I wanted to show her the beautiful scenery of our sacred lands. And during that drive around the Black Hills, I asked her to help me to bring the world to the Sápa, to the Black Hills. And I want to show the world what they were doing to our land. We have over 2,000 mining claims in the Black Hills. Those could be uranium, gold. The gold miners are back. You also have lithium and rare earth. They're destroying our beautiful Black Hills. And I wanted to bring you here. So throughout this week, you're going to hear from the Ocheti Shakoi presenters, our elders and our historians, our spiritual leaders. You're going to get firsthand knowledge of what this term makasitomonia means. You might have seen it in some of the materials in the program. Makasitomnia means it encompasses the whole earth, Unchimaka. And Unchimaka is Mother Earth. She is alive. She is a being. Our goal is for you to connect with our mother, Unchimaka. All of us, we belong to this land, this earth. And by the time you leave at the end of this week, we want you to take something back with you, and that is the knowledge that we have, that are willing to share with you about Lakota philosophy, about Lakota practice, about Lakota knowledge. There's one thing that I learned through all these years of studying our people's relationship with the United States government. There comes a time that we went through genocide. They've been trying to kill us. They tried to, back in 1400s, when Pope issued the documents called the Papal Bulls, and in these bulls, he instructed the Europeans to come to the New World. How can this be a new world when we were here already for thousands of years? Instructed these European explorers to come here and to kill us, to enslave us, and to take our possessions, our land. And if that don't work, Christianize us. And they had this plan all along, and they did it. It worked. Some of our people have become affected by this. It's called colonization and assimilation. So now we're trying to come back, return to who we once were, who we still are, through the ceremonies, through the language, through the culture, the customs, the societies that we have. Because one thing that I learned, Dakota knowledge, traditional knowledge, you'll hear that throughout your lifetime, working in indigenous world, is that traditional knowledge comes from the language, the indigenous language, the Lakota language. That's where we get our traditional knowledge. You can talk about it in English as much as you want, but you'll never get it unless you know your language, what our ancestors taught us. This language that we speak, this Dakota Nakota language, is ancient language. We have been coming for thousands of years to this day, and we have been surviving. We're still here, and we want to make sure that there's a philosophy called the Onchache Shakoi. That means the 7 generations ahead and behind. So each one of us comes from the 7 generations, and we must do what we can to keep a good place and make a good place for the future generations. My professor and tribal historian and our elder Victor DeVille is here. You're going to hear his presentation throughout this week, and you'll hear him talk that what I learned was one generation, one Lakota generation, is 72 years. So you do the math. 7 generations is over 500 years. Our ancestors gave us this concept, which is a forward-thinking, overarching concept looking ahead 500 years. So what we do today now, we have to make sure that the unborn future generations have a better place than what we have today. That's why we called you here, to come here so that you can learn what's going on in the Black Hills and around the world. We also invited the many indigenous peoples here from around the world. We want to hear their stories, to see what's going on in their land. They're going through the same thing we're going through here. They're being affected. They're being devastated, and genocide is still alive. The next thing, part of that, is ethnocide, the stealing of our language, our culture, and our ceremonies. Chief Looking Horse is my cousin. I have a grandma. Her grandmother. Her name is Short Woman. She is the sister of Sitting Bull, Chief Sitting Bull, and my grandma her name is Short Woman, and her mother is Many Doors, and Many Doors' father is Elkhead. So I'm very closely related to the keeper of the pipe. I come from also the original keeper of the pipe. So we are all related. You'll see that saying, all my relations. You've seen that T-shirt where, with all these animals, these wildlife, we're part of this whole Makasi Tomonia. We're all part of this. One is not higher than the other because we're part of this earth with this ecosystem, this biosphere. We all need to take care of each other and to respect each other's sovereignty. I have sovereignty, you have sovereignty. We have to make room for this respect on this land. We belong to Unchimaka, the Mother Earth. We do not own it. We cannot own it because you know what's happening now and across the world. You have volcanoes, you have hurricanes, you have drought, you have lots of devastating extreme weathers happening, and that's because of what they call global warming. Even though we didn't cause it, now we have to jump up and help with that, to help Unchimaka, help Mother Earth, and she is in pain. And that's why you're here today, is to hear from us, and so you can take back a message with you. Pilama apelo. Thank you. Mitako yase, all my relations.
Opida. And as we move forward here, we're going to be introducing you to the CEO of the WILD12, this World Congress. Also, it's good to see many of you here, all of our relatives from the Ocheti, Shakoi, and all the countries represented here. And also, it's good to see Tui Faith Spotted Eagle here as well. Ladies and gentlemen, Tui Faith here, she's the first Native American person from the Honktuan Nation to receive electoral college vote for the presidency of the United States. So we have Tui Faith Spotted Eagle. And she also runs the Braveheart Society, does a lot of great work for our people. But we have stories like that of our people across the Ocheti Shakoi that have done a lot of great things and continue to help the people. And so with that, it gives me a privilege to introduce to you the CEO of our organization here. For more than 2 decades, Amy has worked as a social movement scholar and practitioner in the environmental and human rights sectors. In 2015, she brought a unique social science approach to the WILD Foundation, first as its development officer and later as its vice president of policy and communications, adding her knowledge and insights about building effective social movements to wilderness campaigns in places as far-flung as India and China. Amy is committed to creating a win-win solution for the planet by building global support for the protection of the science-backed spatial target of half of Earth's lands and seas by capacitating indigenous nations and communities around the world to reclaim and defend their traditional territories. Let's give a warm welcome to the CEO of WILD Foundation, Amy Lewis.
Good evening. Coming together in an event like this, traversing thousands of miles of geographic and cultural terrain, while extremely rewarding, is also extremely difficult to pull off. Everyone in this room tonight has my gratitude for choosing to invest your time and energy here in Sápa to problem solve as a global community and assist the people from all cultures and lifeways who help to steward our wild and beautiful home, Ochimaka, Mother Earth. Thank you to everyone here. Your participation is necessary to build momentum for the defense of our planet. A special thanks is owed to our host, the Sicangu Lakota Treaty Council, on behalf of the 7 council fires of the Lakota Oyate, and especially to Philemon Two Eagle and Jen Martell, also known as Jenny from the Rock, who have been gracious and patient mentors for the WILD team, extraordinary partners, and my friends. They are the cornerstone of this unique global gathering. You've all seen Phil just now, but Jen, I hope you're out there. I know you're out there. Could you please stand up, and could everyone please give them a round of applause? There's Jen right there. Hi, Jen. I also want to acknowledge 2 people who I'm basically married to at this point in time. Sorry, Esteban, my real husband. But they've worked their butts off day and night to make this event as meaningful and enjoyable as possible for all of you here. Jennifer Meyer, the co-leader of WILD, and Adam Hansen, the deputy organizer of WILD12. They have invested their hearts and souls into this work. I will never stop being grateful to them. Jen and Adam, please stand up and wave wherever you're at. They should be on stage with me now, but we only had time for 1 WILD speaker, and I was tagged it. I could go on all night, and probably should, thanking everyone who has committed significant time and resources to organizing this event, including the members of the WILD12 Executive Committee, the Knowledge, Wisdom, and Ways of Knowing Committee, the official co-organizers, the members of the resolution working groups, WILD and Sicangu Lakota Treaty Council's teams, and our generous sponsors, the Romanian Environmental Consultants, EPC, ESRI, the Global Center for Indigenous Leadership and Lifeways, and Honor the Earth. I encourage everyone here to look at the acknowledgement section of the program to see who those people and organizations are and offer them your thanks throughout the week to come. Among all of these dedicated volunteers and philanthropists, it is also important that we collectively recognize that none of us would be here tonight if it weren't for the decades of work that went into building the global wilderness community and the past congresses that helped to make that community what it is today. There were many individuals involved in those efforts as well, but chief among them were Vance Martin, who organized the World Wilderness Congress for more than 30 years of his career, and Alan Watson, who for decades successfully discharged orders given to him by no less a figure than the great John Hindy, who ordered Alan to get butts in seats as a necessary precondition for building and mobilizing a stronger wilderness movement. This week, we are standing on the shoulders of giants. Vance and Alan are in the audience now. Would you please both stand up also and give them another round of applause? They deserve it. There's Vance over there. Alan, I know you're shy, but okay. But before there was Vance and Alan, before there was a Congress, before there was a global community of dedicated wilderness advocates, before there was even the inkling of recognition that such a thing was needed, there were another 2 men who stood side by side beneath the blazing sun in a sea of tall grasses. When the story of the World Wilderness Congress begins, they were having an argument about the placement of a rock on another pile of rocks. One of them believed that such an action gave way to a mere superstition. In his opinion, no rational person possessed of a right mind would do such a thing. But the other man believed that such an action was a necessary gesture of respect, an acknowledgement that the land they walked upon overflowed with the mystery of life. As the 2 men argued, the flies swarmed around them, sweat dripped from their pores, but neither of them were inclined to compromise. Far from these black hills, in a place known as the last outpost of a colonial empire, and also the sacred hunting grounds of African kings, these men journeyed, seeking a way to save the magnificent southern white rhino from the very brink of extinction. One of these men was white. And as they both lived in apartheid South Africa, where racism was mandated by the powers that be, it was obvious to him, at least, that he was the authority. No black man could tell him what to do, especially if it involved something as superstitious as giving tribute to the earth. But the other was a descendant of the very kings who had once hunted these lands. Authority coursed through his veins. The sun burned painfully bright overhead, but it was not his skin that would blister with burns as they waited for the white man to give the land its due. Still as stone, he stood his ground. For reasons that even years later he could not fully comprehend, the white man relented. He trudged up to the heap of rocks and indignantly thrust his offering on the top. Satisfied, his companion nodded, and they continued their trek beneath the blinding sun, deeper into the tall grass. A shimmer of movement, a hiccup in the passage of time. A muscular rope of dark scales, silent as smoke, rose from the grass. It confronted the men, eye to beady eye. Imamba in Mayama, the black mamba, a snake whose bite will kill a man in minutes. Time slowed down and thickened as man and serpent gazed upon one another. The seconds took on an almost unbearable intensity. The whole rest of their lives that they now might never live, all the richness and meaning stretched before them and began to unravel, stranding them in this moment with the startling awareness that all that was left was the snake, the land, and their beating hearts. Frozen with fear, their senses expanded outward. They felt everything, the smell of sunlight, the sigh of leaves, the bitter taste of dirt beneath their boots. There was also, in that moment, the startling awareness of that unnameable sense that hovers just above the skin, alerting us to the presence of another. It stirred around them, but a tingling reminder that here, in the end, they were not alone. They were with each other. Such was the magic of mortality, there in the nowhere wilds, there in the now here. The snake held them in its gaze for a moment longer, an eternity longer, and then, as silently as it had come, it sank back into the grass and disappeared. Who knows how long it took the two men to recover their wits and move away from that place. But when they finally did, they sat down together, breathless and alive. The fabric of the land stretched around them in strange and soft new textures, the grass a feathery golden velvet, the trees a dark and coarse wool. It was then the Son of Kings told the white man the meaning of their encounter. If they had not offered tribute to the land, they would have dishonored the spirit of the land. For the place they walked upon was more than just a set of physical relationships. It was the accumulation of all the relationships that existed, that had ever existed, and that would ever exist in that place. It was the memory of the men and women who had come before, and the promise of those who would come after. It was the countless unseen things that, for all their invisibility, bound that place to earth and permitted people to walk there. Respect and recognition was all that it required of them in return. These two men were Ian Player and Makubu Ntambela, the co-founders of the WILD Foundation, the World Wilderness Congress, and our sister organizations, Wilderness Foundation Africa, Wilderness Foundation UK, and the Wilderness Leadership School. Each of these organizations carry forward into the future the ethic instilled in us by Ian and Makubu's friendship for each other, and taking to heart Makubu's lesson to Ian, we are committed to the wilderness as physical ecology, what Phil Two Eagle would call Manita, a place with no boundaries, as well as the undomesticated, undominated, sovereign, wild, and free spirit within each and every one of us. Not Watogola, savage or brutal, but wild in the sense of what Phil Two Eagle refers to as Manita Wichoni, boundless life. Respect for the land was the first lesson Ian learned by Makubu's side, but it was not the last. Years later, when Ian and Makubu would go back into the backcountry to find a symbol for their work together, they would find none, until days later they returned to Makubu's kraal, where the old man bent to the ground and picked up a single leaf from the common erythrina plant, declaring that this was to be the symbol of their new organization, because it is a plant that grows on every kraal and homestead in South Africa, and because wilderness is our home. And Ian agreed with Makubu, and the leaf became the symbol of our organizations, which you will see to this day in our respective logos. Because on the day of the snake, the serpent accomplished for Ian what man would not succeed in doing for the South African nation for decades to come. It ended the violent apartheid in Ian's heart. The roles now reversed. Ian consulted with Makubu and looked to him for authority. While the seeds of the World Wilderness Congress were planted in that moment, the Congress was nurtured over the years through friendship and countless conversations between the two men as they sat beside a campfire beneath the African night sky, learning how to come closer to each other and the world around them, learning how to become more fully human. In honor of the World Wilderness Congress's founders and their friendship, I humbly ask all delegates to keep the spirit of friendship close to your hearts this week as we engage in meaningful, difficult, and critically important conversations. I also ask of our delegates who are not native to this land that in honor of our hosts and the lesson Ian learned from Makubu, that you look to the Ochedi Shakoi and Philemon Two Eagle for permission and guidance, that you seek out their protocols, and that you read the Dakota code written by the Venerable Victor DeVille, which you will find in your programs. Even if we have never met before, and I know I haven't met many of you, by virtue of the fact that you are a member of the Global Wilderness Movement, you are family to me. As family, let us care for each other and those around us. Treat our elders with respect, be patient and gracious with those we may not always agree with, and recognize that at this moment, here in the Black Hills, in the midst of a climate and biodiversity crisis, we can practice care for the planet by caring more deeply and authentically for each other. Thank you.